Hi, everyone, and welcome to Break the Bias, the Women Owning the Ledger. My name is Emily Hedrick. I am the marketing lead at Bookkeep, an automation platform for accountants, bookkeepers, and business owners. We're excited to host our first special topic panel discussion today with some highly respected and powerful women in the industry. We're looking forward to your participation, so feel free to comment in the chat and ask questions in the Q&A. Thank you all for joining us. Our moderator today is Madeline Pratt. From working at startups to Fortune 500s, Madeline never found a company that perfectly matched her mission-driven ethos. Instead, she became the boss she always wanted, built Fearless Foundry from the ground up, and grew it from a one-woman show into a dynamic team of powerhouses. Her longtime goal has been to get resources into the hands of underrepresented founders. A born leader, she revels in developing business strategies alongside clients and getting to work with humans she loves every day. If she's not resolutely fighting the patriarchy, she's probably writing, podcasting, or sewing clothes for her kids or dog. Madeline, you could take it away.
Thank you so much, Emily. And I'm really, really excited and honored to be here with y'all today. I'm just looking forward to this discussion with two women that I really love. And I hope that y'all will participate as well. So we've got the chat open. I'm going to keep an eye on it, as will Emily. And as we move through this conversation, I really encourage you to chime in, whether that is just to give a thumbs up or a hell yeah to what we're saying, or to ask questions or share your own experiences. Because I think that this is one of the most amazing things we can do as women is talk about our lived experiences, particularly in an industry like accounting. With that said, I want to introduce my panelists today. So Tanya Hiltz, will you just take a moment to say hi to everybody and tell them how you've been doing?
Hey, everybody. Been doing great, stayed healthy through COVID, which is good. And so looking forward to getting back out and seeing people again. And
Me too. Me too. Yeah, I was realizing when we were setting this up that I haven't seen you either of you in person in almost 3 years, and I can't wait for that to change.
Oh, I know, it's been so long. It's going to be great. So yes, thank you.
Awesome. And Miss Kelly Gonzalez, how are you doing?
I am well, recovering from COVID, so feeling much better today, thankfully. Got my strength back a little bit and sipping on my orange juice, so I'm excited.
Good. I got my cup of tea and my energy drinks as well, so we'll keep it hydrated around here. And before we dive in, I'm curious to hear from y'all. What are you most excited about having this conversation today?
I think part of it is hopefully somebody on here takes away from this conversation something that encourages them to do something for themselves. I think in the beginning, when I first started coming into this industry as a woman, and then also as a bookkeeper, you're stereotyped a lot. And so having to kind of break that mold a little bit and kind of change the narrative was part of my story. And so I hope that encourages somebody on here to do the same for themselves.
I love that so much. Tanya, what about for you?
I completely agree with everything that Kelly said. And I think where this has really changed, and I talk to so many bookkeepers and accountants, but it's more so from the bookkeeper side as well too, that there's just people don't have, the women don't have the confidence because, part of the industry, part of, everything. I think it's just women in general that were caretakers and nurturers that, and we've been told for so long, you're just a bookkeeper, right? And that again, that if somebody can walk away with some more confidence, knowing that we're doing more than just a bookkeeper, there's so much more that we do, and we are equally important, if not but in a different way than the accountants. Absolutely, we do a different thing. It's equally important, and that we should have that confidence. And whether you've come through the educational route, because I don't have a classroom education in this, I have self-taught myself everything and gotten my designations and done all of this by myself. And I used to feel that I was not worthy as some other people because I did not have a college education. That's not how I went and did this. And so I've realized now that it is you and is the ethics that you have. And I ended up working harder because I felt I had more to prove. It took me a long time to realize that. So I'm hoping that somebody walks through and comes through with this and realizes that, again, it's you as an individual. We all have this. Kelly says she's got the same self-doubt, like, thanks for that, Kelly. And I want people to hear it. We have to have this discussion because so many people are thinking that and feel that they're the only ones who think that. So don't discuss it. So again, awareness, and know that we are strong women. So sorry, a lot of talking, but it's a passion of mine.
I love it. Don't hold back the passion today, Tanya. And the other thing I wanted to say, we were talking about how we've been doing, but I'd love to hear from the audience in the chat how you're doing. We've all been through such an immense season. I wear a lot of hats. I'm a CEO, I'm a mom, I'm I'm supposed to be a wife sometimes. Like these things we've been through a lot, not just through COVID, but in our businesses. And I think of all the industries that have just really carried an immense amount of weight during this pandemic. Accounting and bookkeeping, I mean, y'all have been some real heroes behind the scenes for your clients, and small businesses that have really struggled with cash flow during this time. And, I care a lot about mental health and just how that weight, affects all of us mentally, physically, emotionally. So if you feel brave and want to share how you're doing in the chat, please go ahead and do so as we dive into our discussion and just, keep this conversation rolling. But we're going to go ahead and dive into our prep questions. But I love all these chime-ins in the chat. So keep those coming. And Emily, we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. So this is a question that we kind of teed up perfectly. So well done, ladies. And this is one that I'm really excited about. So if you had been a fly on a wall, just a few minutes before we dived into this discussion, we were all, kind of prepping, and we were all talking about our hair colors, because obviously I'm showing up in blue, Kelly's got multicolored, Tanya's going to be putting the purple back in today. And what I love about this is there's just been such a wave of women in the industry who have just owned their own identities. And I think it's because we saw other women do it before us that we felt like we could finally have the permission to do that. So I'm so curious to know, both personally and professionally, how have you all developed and evolved since entering the accounting industry?
Tanya, I guess go first.
Oh, okay, yeah, so good. So sure, I'll go first this time. Thanks, Kelly. So, and it's interesting when I first entered the accounting industry, because my background is corporate. A lot of people may or may not know, but I was in insurance for 17 years. So I had a very corporate background, and I used to put fun colors in my hair, but it all depended on where I was. I moved up very quickly. So I ran a department at 21 in an insurance company owned by one of the big 4 banks here in Canada. I ran my own office at 25. So depending on where I was, when I went into the office, I walked in and there were the people that were reporting to me were older, male, European. And so I purposely, thank goodness I started graying at 13. I let all my hair color go out to go into there, because I wouldn't have had the respect at 25 running it when they got past that promotion and they're in their 50s. There is no way that I would have had the same respect. And so I kind of came into the accounting industry feeling the same way, that I couldn't do that. And I love the fact that we've got so many women like Liz Scott and Kelly, you've got your colors. And I have the past several years been able to really let my personality come out. And I've learned that, you know what, if people don't like me, that's their problem. They just don't have to deal with me. And so I don't have to pretend to be somebody that I'm not. So that's how I've changed personally. And then professionally, it's kind of the same thing. It's pulled over, and that I'm not being somebody I'm not anymore. I'm owning who I am. And I mean, I only have, just on Facebook, for example, I only have one Facebook page. I used to have a professional and a personal, because again, that's the environment I came up in. Moving into the accounting industry was the same thing. And I've just said, you know what? I don't post anything out there that I wouldn't want the whole world to see anyway. And again, you can take me or you can leave me. And if you decide to leave me, that's a you problem, not a me problem. And so I've surrounded myself with people who feel the same, and it's been so liberating and so empowering to be able to know that we can do that. It doesn't affect
I
anything.
love the confidence you're sharing with here, Tanya. And I also know your story and your journey, and that's something that is authentic, but also was built over time, right? And so, I mean, this is my favorite thing about turning 30 a couple years ago, was like, I just felt like I kind of came into myself a little bit more, and I was like, this is who I am. Like, been doing this for 30 years, folks. Like, I'm taking or leaving it kind of thing. And the other thing is that, I see that in the way that you share in the world, and so I know a lot of women, particularly in this era of social media, we kind of struggle to figure out, how could I show up as myself, no matter where I am. And this is one of the things that I love about both of you, is I see you showing up and sharing in really authentic ways. And that makes me excited, because I go, okay, other women now know that they have the permission to do that. Kelly, I'd love to hear from you on this one.
So I think, so a couple of different things, I guess. I've definitely developed both personally and professionally. I entered the industry when I was about 30 years old. Like, I had just turned 30, and you kind of have that crisis of, what am I going to do with my life, and where am I going with this? And in the beginning, I was working with my aunt, which most people know my story, right? So I started working with my aunt, who is a woman that's worked for herself for 30 plus years now. Super impressive. And I was trying to fit a mold, I think. So it was, what to wear, how to style my hair, how I should talk, how I should act when I'm on site with a client, if I'm in their office, how I should take calls with my customer service voice. How can I help you today? That kind of thing. And I realized, thankfully, fairly quickly, that if I was myself, I was going to be it's a lot easier to keep track of yourself when you're being authentic, and not, what did I say to this person? How did I act when I was there? What did I wear last time I was doing this? Etc. But if I was myself, people also liked me for who I was. So why was I trying to pretend or put on this other outfit, or look a certain way, or behave a certain way? And once I kind of embraced that, once I embraced myself, so to speak, and started to be really more authentic for who I am, and behave the way that I behave, and act the way I act, etc., and speak out the way that I speak. I don't filter my tweets or my messages on Facebook anymore. I don't have two profiles, like Tanya said. I don't try and separate myself from my business, because it's all part of me. But I think there was some bravery and some courage and some things that had to happen there for me to realize that, rather than trying to put on this facade. And once I embraced that, my business grew, my friendships grew, like, a lot of things changed. And it changed personally, like, friendships I already had, but then I also started to make friendships in the industry. Like, you guys, I consider you guys friends, right? So, like, stuff like that started to change, and I started to really enjoy what I was doing more. Because it was more, I'm going to say holistic. It was more, 360, so to speak. So yeah, so I think I want to say I've grown a lot in the past 7 years.
Yeah. And I feel really lucky, because same as Tanya, I've known you all along that way, Kelly, and I've gotten to watch from the outside, and I'm like, look at her kicking ass. Like, it's so fun to see other women shine. And also, like, the thing that I love, especially about some of the things that people are sharing in the chat, is like, we've all gone through those seasons, right? Like, some of you might remember me from my Fathom days, with my blazer hiding, my full sleeve of tattoos, and my secret pink hair that was hiding underneath here, right? Like, and I still love and honor, that season of my life. And I'm also really happy to be on the other side of it, so I can show up fully as who I am wherever I am. But the other thing I wanted to say, just hearing the two of you speak, is how much our own changes, and when I say our, I mean all of us, but also all of the other women in the industry who I've watched evolve, has pushed the industry to evolve. So I remember a moment, gosh, what was it? It was Scaling New Heights, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, Kelly. And we were in a room, and we were all talking about how there weren't enough women on the main stage. And I won't name names, but somebody affiliated with the organization said, well, that's because we struggle to find women of main stage caliber. And that pissed me off like you wouldn't believe, because I was sitting in the midst of 8 women of main stage caliber, but none of us had said, I'm capable of doing that. And then Jeannie Whitehouse did it. And then Misty Mejia did it. And then all these other women started taking that mic and saying, no, I am main stage caliber. And that has been like the highlight of my life. Whereas it used to be panel discussions where, you know, we were lucky if one of us was invited to the conversation. And now it's like, if you don't want us, we're going to create our own panel. So you better invite us to the party, right? And so that energetic shift and that confidence, I see it radiate from us throughout other women in the industry. And that has been amazing to witness, because I think it's also a dynamic shift as feminists where we're not worried about fighting each other for the one spot. We're just like, how can we make more room at the table so we can all sit around and have the conversations we're supposed to be having? So that shit lights me up, and I could write a whole TED talk about it. So we'll keep going. So Emily, if you can click slide. But I'd also love, as we move on in the conversation, if you have feelings and emotions about how you've evolved, please share those in the chat as well. Okay.
There are a lot of hair comments in the chat.
So many hair comments. I'm loving the hair comments. We were also talking about eyelash extensions too. So any beauty alteration tips that you have, we're here for that today. So jokes aside, I think that this question is the most important question on this call, and they are linked. And so it might seem like we just took a hard left turn, but actually, you know, I think that our abilities to negotiate the value of what we offer are really directly tied to our inherent belief around our own value. And so I'm very curious, as you two went on this personal journey and this professional journey, how have you developed skills that have really helped you to be stronger in your value and negotiate your rates and your scope of work better?
I think that standing up for yourself has a lot to do with this. So I still come across people that, I think I tweeted it last week, like a guy was like, hey, I mean, this isn't rocket science, right? No, you're right. I am not actually performing brain surgery or rocket science over here, but you also don't know how to fix what mess you've made. So you clearly need some professional help. And so it kind of reinforces. It used to discourage me when I would hear stuff like that, but now it really more reinforces that what I'm doing, and this is, I mean, across the different jobs and tasks that I've taken on, but what I do as a professional, and I do well. And so I know that there's a value or a dollar sign, so to speak, attached to that. I can say that I don't typically negotiate. So part of that is, here's my rate, here's my price. If it's to speak, if it's to do a class, if it's to do a cleanup, whatever it might be, this is my rate. Here we go. I don't do the negotiation thing, because I've learned that once you kind of show that weakness, so to speak, once you devalue what you've said is a certain cost or a certain price, they then kind of jump right on you. So I'll say something along the lines of, no problem, we can remove this part of the job, and so I can lower the rate. And then, you know, sometimes they get offended of like, oh, well, is the work not going to be the same? Or what's more important? Do you want the full job, or are you comfortable with removing this little piece so that I can lower the rate to fit your budget? But yeah, so the scope of work I've learned over the years, and I guess sometimes it's more in my brain or in my gut, and I kind of just know by looking at certain things what they're going to cost and how much time it's going to take. But I don't do the negotiation things too often, if at all.
I mean, if anybody's taken any of my money pricing webinars, courses, anything, you know my mantra, it's price is only an issue in the absence of value. And you know your value, you know what you're offering is valuable. And so you don't feel the need to negotiate. And I just think that's a really awesome share. Tanya, what about for you?
Yeah, so thanks, Madeline. So I'm the same as Kelly. I have learned, again, it's a skill that has been learned. Definitely not part of my natural, because my natural is if somebody comes back, I like to help people. And I think, again, as bookkeepers, as women, we're in it to help people. We're not necessarily in it for the money. So I think there's a few reasons why we tend to negotiate. But if somebody comes back, I'd be okay, sure. So a few things I've done is, first off, like Kelly, I negotiate on scope of work, not on price. That is key. The second thing that I do is we actually don't quote them immediately. So I sit down and then the third thing is, I guess I've got a pricing partner. So Leanne, who works with me, and if we need to bring Sandra in, there's somebody else that is not as emotionally tied to the business and the sale as I am. Brings that in, and we sit there and we discuss it. We've got, our formula that we know, here it is. And then the way that I look at it when I'm teaching people and have, like, again, like on my value pricing, or my right sizing, I like to call it, right price, right client, right services. When we do that and talk about that, it's always give yourself, a 24-hour period to sit there. And it's almost like preparing for a board meeting. You would not walk into a board meeting unprepared for questions. So you sit there, okay, what type of questions might they have back? What concerns might they have back? What are my responses to that? And make sure that you've got all of your responses, all of your absolutely everything. How would you negotiate the rates? Have all of that done. And then you've got, again, 24 hours to convince yourself that, yes, this is it. This is worth it. And that's all there is to it. And I never, ever, ever negotiate on the spot. So that is I think been the key thing with us, is even if I'm pricing something and Leanne's not, is again, prep for it. Give yourself that time, because 100% of the time, even me, even now, if somebody were to try and negotiate back to me and I did not give myself that time to prep, I 100% of the time, my natural would come out and go, okay, sure. And that's not cool. Because as Kelly said, then they start to, you are lowering your value. You're pushing that. Then what does that show? That shows people that, oh, no, just push back and Tanya will negotiate. And I mean, think about it. How many times have we had, look at our cell phones. You've got a good plan on the cell phone because you called and you pushed. Don't you tell all your friends, oh, call TELUS or call Verizon or call T-Mobile. Just tell them you want this and push, and you're going to get what you want. Can't have that.
Yeah. Oh my God. So much golden nuggets here. So I want to pull out some of the really key points. And if you got a notebook, write these down. So, Kelly's saying, she doesn't negotiate. The only thing that she's willing to budge on is the scope of work. So if somebody comes back and says, I can't afford that, she goes, great. What can you do today? And again, do people negotiate with their dentist? Do you go into, Nike tomorrow to buy a pair of shoes and say, like, I'd like to pay half that? No, if you want to pay half that, you go to the discount place, down the road, and you either buy knockoffs or you buy last season's sale. Like, that's how that works, and so people can shop around on price all day. It doesn't mean you have to participate in the process. And the firmer we all stand in our own value, the more people recognize that they can't do that stuff to us. Now, the other thing that Tanya shared that was so amazing was this realization of, like, one, negotiation is a skill. And so it's something that if you're not strong at, you can get better. There are books you can read. There are coaches you can work at. There's podcasts you can listen to build this skill. And also, if you know that you struggle with this, how can you set yourself up for success? So she has an accountability partner in her business that makes sure that she's pricing based off of the value, not off the emotion she feels for the client. And she's also making sure she takes a beat, so she's not putting herself in a high pressure situation where she feels like she's going to fold. So what I want to add to this equation is a couple other things, because I think they're really key tactics. And I love a good tactic because it can change somebody's life or day. So one of my favorite tactics, just take this question, put it in your pocket. When somebody goes, what is your price? Or if somebody hasn't asked, what is your price? And you're in a moment of, presenting, the services you could offer somebody. And usually for me, this is the first qualifying call with a client. This is before I even build a proposal. My favorite question on earth when it comes to pricing is, what is the budget you have allocated for this project or service? And then just don't say anything. And everyone will give you a BS answer. at the bat, they'll go like, I don't know what money is. I don't know what money's worth. I don't know how to as if they've never ever talked to an actual professional. And then you'll go, great. Well, I would love it if you could circle with your team and get back to me as to what is the budget that will work for you, because then my team and I will work together to build a proposal around that. And just so you know, and this is my pricing, my monthly retainer minimum is $2,500 a month. So that's the ballpark we're playing in. Does that work for you? Pause. And a lot of, I would say about 50% of prospects go, I don't know if I can meet that minimum. And I go, okay, do you want us to circle back in 6 months? And a lot of them in 6 months become our clients because they go somewhere else, they get a cheaper solution, it all fails, and then they come back to us. And so that tactic is really important. The other one I want to say is lean on the people in your network to help you push your prices higher. I know, and I'm gonna, Kelly and Tanya call me out if I'm making false promises here. But I know that if you were to email any one of us and say, hey, I got my first speaking gig and they're asking me what my price is and I don't know what to charge. Or, hey, I just got a huge scope of work coming my way and I don't know what to charge. We will show up for you and say, well, this is what my price is. Because I believe that the way we all increase our value is by talking candidly about money. And again, I could go on all day about this, but this is the way we as women can support each other. Because I will tell you, when I started out in this industry, there was a client that I had worked with. She is still so amazing. She's a friend of mine. She was a mentor to me. Her name is Kristen. She's the leader of Breakaway Advisors. And also she leads a practice called Sherwood Tax. And they asked me to do a scope of work for them. And I sent her my proposal and I was like, it's so big. It's like $1,000. And she sent me an email back and she said, I'd like you to review the attached and revise your proposal. And the proposal attached was somebody else's proposal. And it was somebody else in industry who was proposing to do the same scope of work, somebody who I actually knew. And I also knew that they were less qualified than me. And their proposal was 12 times as much as mine. And one, I was like, that is wildly overpriced for the amount of work. It was way overpriced. But I was like, holy crap, I can charge that much. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have had the money to hire my first employee. And so it was because a woman showed up for me and said, I love you, but also you're being cheap on yourself right now. You know more than this, you're worth more than this, that I was able to build my business. So I just think that that's so important that we as women do that for each other. And I'm just saying on this call, y'all know how to find me on the internet. I will help you out with that if you have struggles. So with that said, Emily, I guess we got to keep moving, even though I could stay here all day. Oh, okay. This one's a little loaded. I'm going to just take a breath, take a beat, take a sip of your tea. This one's personal. This one's a little emotional. I know we all struggle with it. Imposter syndrome. And I want to put a little asterisk on this just because we've learned a lot about the neuroscience behind imposter syndrome in recent years, and realized that a lot of imposter syndrome, particularly for women and people of color, is about conditioning. It's about the fact that you grew up under a patriarchal society that told you you were worth less, that told you that your voice didn't matter, that told you you should be quiet and not make noise, or not speak up or stand up for yourself. And so when we do those things, that little voice in our head goes, how dare I? Who do I think I am to take up this much space? I don't know what I'm talking about. And that voice, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear in this, but I'm going to say it, is a little asshole, and you need to tell them to shut up. But it's also something we all struggle with. So Kelly, will you take this one first? Have you ever felt imposter syndrome, and how do you navigate?
So I, like Tanya, did not have a formal accounting education. So I used to think, at least in the beginning, that was what my issue was with myself, right? So feeling like an imposter, feeling like I didn't belong. I signed up for extra classes. I went for my certification in bookkeeping. I felt like I had to educate myself, and like that was going to fix it. And that did not fix it. Because that wasn't the problem. I think that for me, right, so in addition to the education, some of it was age, some of it was finding my voice, some of it was coming from a different industry and not really feeling like I had the position to speak or say the things that I was saying. But I don't know who came up with this term, but I'm gonna use it. Fake it till you make it, and that's basically what I did. So I, felt strongly about certain things, and I would speak on them. I would walk into a room and I would smile, even if inside I was terrified to speak to the people in that room. I struggle with social anxiety, which a lot of people wouldn't realize because most of the time I am faking it until I'm comfortable. So finding a person in the room that I'm either able to start a conversation with or someone that I know, a lot of those things helped me kind of navigate my way through it, until I guess I got to a point where I realized that I was the expert. I was the pro. I was the person that was speaking on stage. I was the person that was being asked to speak on a topic. I still struggle with it, by the way. So don't get it twisted that in the last 7 years I've mastered imposter syndrome. There are definitely times that I walk onto a stage or into a room or onto a webinar where I'm like, oh, okay, there's a big wig here, or there's a big name here, or why did they pick me? But I realized that I have my own unique voice and my own unique feelings about things and my own unique spin, if you will, or view on things. And that is valuable. And so I need to say those things to the world. And some people like to listen to them, and some people appreciate my opinion. And I think that also kind of gave me some strength behind what I was saying, validation, if you will. In my house growing up, my mom was the pants wearer, if you will. She is a retired captain corrections officer from Rikers Island, which if you're from New York is like a big deal. So she was pretty tough. She's never been super strict. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, she must have been so like militant. She was never like that growing up, but she was a strong woman. She still is. She is a strong woman. And I think that some of that obviously had to have been instilled in me growing up, but going into the corporate world, you kind of bury some of those things. And so when I was able to come out on my own, so to speak, right, start my own company, have my own voice, I kind of had to re-find that stuff. So the strength that was imparted on me growing up, I had to go and kind of rediscover that, and then rediscover who I was and kind of grow into that. So it took a couple years, but I think finding my voice and just being able to speak my mind and having people accept it and embrace it, embrace me, was really helpful with getting past it.
Yeah, I love that strong woman energy piece too. Like I interview so many women for my podcast, and that's a consistent thread throughout, is like the women who become leaders saw other women be strong leaders and strong examples of that. Tanya, what about for you?
Yeah, so I mean, like Kelly, I still struggle with it. It's something that I don't think that I honestly will ever not struggle with. I get more and more confident, but I just think, just with my personality, I just think it's something that I'll always be struggling with. But yeah, it's, just like Kelly said too, fake it until you make it. It's mind over matter. If you convince yourself, you will eventually be what you're showing. So again, which I know this is going to surprise a lot of people, I just, again, like Kelly, I'm very shy. Like first time I guess I met Kelly, it was, I think it was Kelly or Jeannie or somebody pulled me over to the table. It was the year of the Firm of the Future. And again, I was so shy. I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, look at all these people. We were having a discussion where somebody, I can't remember if it was Kelly or who was it that was teaching, in the class at the fair.
Oh, it was Megan.
Oh, was it Megan? Okay, yes. So, but yeah, again, like I was just going to go and walk over by myself, and somebody told me, come over, be a part of this. Because again, but I was like, oh my gosh, sitting there, like looking at these people, they're going, I'm not one of them, even though I just won the Firm of the Future. I still felt like that. And that's something, again, that's really natural to me. But again, your stuff. One thing that somebody has pointed out to me too, that if you're up there and you're talking up on stage or you're doing something, nobody has any idea what's going to come out next. They don't know if you've, mucked up your lines. They have no idea. So you have to just try to do that. Try to forget what other people are saying, and just know that everybody is there to support you. Nobody wants you to fail. Everybody is there to support you up on that. But I think it's something that's been very difficult for me because, my grandfather was actually a corrections officer and in the Air Force. My grandmother was a stay-at-home mother, kind of like, leave it to Beaver style thing. And that was what I grew up a lot more with. My mother was a single mother, but, and she was a woman's liber. But, she was not a career person. So I didn't really have that to look up to. So I am truly the first white collar career person in our family. And then I go straight into, again, insurance and, right into corporate. And again, it was, as you said, Madeline, that was what I was conditioned at that point. And, so this is where I felt I had to, again, change my hair color and do this and that just to try to get respect from people. Luckily, I had some very strong women that I looked up to at that point to be able to help me through that. But yeah, it's something that I think we all struggle with. And just at the end of the day, just know that you're not alone. Fake it till you make it. And you know what? Nobody else can see that. Nobody can see that you've got that. That's their own demons. And like you said, like flick that little a-hole off your shoulder, right? Just get rid of them and just own yourself. And eventually, 99% of the time anyway, I don't feel like I'm an imposter anymore, but eventually you will start to become the person that you are, the role that you're playing essentially. And that really helps with the confidence. And surround yourself with other people that will bring you up. If you look at who you're surrounding yourself with, surround yourself with people that you respect. People, if you always surround yourself with people, smarter than you or that you respect or at a different level, you've always got something to attain to. And, I work with Jeannie Whitehouse and I've said to her, like, I absolutely love Jeannie and I think she's absolutely amazing. But her and I have had these same type of imposter syndrome conversations on that. And, she is very real too. And she has said to me, she feels it. And we have had very raw conversations. And I think just sharing that and talking about it, again, when I hear that she feels that, that makes me feel better that, oh, that's a human thing. And that other people. So again, I think at the end of the day, it's on these conversations and just sharing and supporting each other. And I know I've put in the chat that that's one thing that I think women have a huge advantage of over men is it is natural to us to support each other and reach out to each other. And like you said, Madeline, if somebody is, says, oh, I've just been reached out to, I don't know what to charge. Again, I think that for the majority, women are going to, speak up and help support. So surround yourself with supporting people. And if you're surrounding yourself with somebody who you feel is negative or who is adding to that imposter syndrome, maybe you need to distance yourself from them and get yourself surrounded by other people.
Also, you couldn't have teed me up for the next question better. So shout out to you. Not this one, but Emily skipped. There we go. So I love all this answer from you, Tanya. And I'm particularly the part about, really part of your imposter syndrome can be fed by who is around you, whether they're people who are building you up or they're tearing you down, And so I think it's really critical as we grow in this industry to surround ourselves with other strong women. If you need to know some, they're all in the chat right now, just like dropping like knowledge bombs on us. Like Kristen Nisraldo showed up and like gave us like a 3-pointer that's so good. So please just like, as you're attending, pull up a secondary screen if you got one, just go follow all the other attendees on social media so that your feed is filled with these people so that next time you go to a conference, you can recognize them and say, oh my gosh, I would love to know you. Because I can tell you all these women that are in this room today, they're just as wonderful as they appear on these chats behind the scenes on the webinar, and they're really worth knowing. And we've built such amazing connections through this industry. I was driving to work today and I was like, God, women are the fucking best. Oh God, I'm swearing again. But I'm like, we're the best, right? Like we're so supportive of each other. And like in my phone, I have 15 different women on any given day from this industry who, if I'm wrestling with something, if I need support, yesterday I was messaging somebody about, I need an intern for this client. The other day I was like a girl boss mom and I'd closed a deal and we were all just celebrating together. It's like, having those other connections have been everything to me, to my professional development. And I mean, I've traveled the world with these people. Like, I feel so blessed by the women I know in this industry. So I'm curious to know from y'all, how have you forged connections with other women in this industry that have really helped you grow and shine?
Who went first last time? Like, should I?
Yeah,
go first?
Tanya gets to go to first this time.
Tanya, you go first.
Tanya's first.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, you know what? It's just Facebook conferences. There's a lot of people that I've met on Facebook, and like you said, yeah, there's some great, like Donna Reed's on here, and she's quiet, but Donna is absolutely, really good. If you can get her at a conference, because I think I met her at our first conference, but again, really good supportive people, and you're absolutely right. I mean, it's just reach out, and if you're a strong person and you're at a conference or you're there, reach out to somebody that you see that maybe isn't connecting, give that back and just walk up to them and just say, hey. And I mean, the best story that I have actually is about Jeannie. Her and I, we had met, we were at San Jose, my very first conference, San Jose conference, I want to say probably 2017, 2016, maybe 2015, I think it was. Anyway, so we're meeting there, and her and I had chatted. We were going on some of these other different, the events together, and she had walked up to me and she had started talking to me. And okay, this is great. Now I know somebody. And then all of a sudden, 2 days later, she was called up and recognized on stage as one of the most top powerful women in accounting. And I was like, what? That's the same person that I was just, chatting with. And then all of a sudden it felt very intimidating. And I went on the next day, I went down for breakfast and I was by myself, and Jeannie was sitting there, and they went to put me at a seat all by myself. And Jeannie said, you know what? Come and sit here, Tanya. And I'm like, I can't sit with you. You're Jeannie Whitehouse. You were just up on stage. I didn't know this about you. And we had the most amazing conversation. And that really made me, okay, she is just the person. So this is, and really kind of hit home how important it is that if you see somebody else out there, go up to them and talk to them and bring them in, because Jeannie has had such a huge impact. Even though I only started working with her, a year and a half ago, she has had such a huge impact on me just because of what she has done. And even after that, she remembered me. I was able to reach out to her and ask her for different things, and she was there. So she has been a true inspiration to me. Diane Mueller up here in Canada, another powerful woman, truly inspiring, who has done the same thing at the Canadian conferences. So reach out to people on Facebook. Don't be intimidated. I think any one of us, again, walk up to me. There's a lot of people say they're intimidated to me because I tend to have a lot of people around me. And it's just usually they kind of say, Tanya's reading, holding court or whatever. It's just I can't get up and walk around as easy with my back. So I just tend to be at the couch and people come up. But please push your way through. And again, walk up to any of these other women. And again, if you're out there and you see somebody, walk up to them and grab them and just introduce yourself to them. And it's absolutely an amazing community.
Yeah, oh my gosh, you're getting me so pumped to go back to conferences this year.
I'm
gonna put my speaking schedule in it, just so we can all make sure to know where everybody is. But really, truly, I can't agree with what you shared more. Women like Jeannie Whitehouse, Misty Mejia, like it's because of women like them that I believed I had a place in this industry. And the thing that I love about both of them is they've turned around in their own companies now and have programs to bring other women up. So Jeannie's got her amazing program. My team, I gotta give my team credit. We did all the design and the website for that program. And then, Misty Mejia has her amazing speaking training program for emerging women leaders. And it's because of those women, that we've kind of gotten to grow up together. And I, again, used to think they were way out here, and now I'm such close friends with them. And that's so special to me. Kelly, how about for you? What's your thoughts?
So forged connections, I would say, so like shout out to Kristen, who's in the chat. She's one of my business partners. So I get to work with another really cool, strong woman every single day. But I think that similar to what Tanya said, like this industry has to be one of the most unique industries in that everyone is so supportive of each other. And I will say the people that are not supportive don't typically stay long. right? So like even the people that have come out and not been the nicest people, they're not around for very long. The people in this industry, and even the men, I will say, have shown support over the years and have opened doors for me that I guess, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I have to be really grateful in this situation. Just being able to connect and also asking for stuff, right? So like if I'm struggling with something or if I need a connection to someone or I have an issue that I can't figure out, I have no problem calling up pretty much almost anybody that I've met at a conference and saying, hey, I think you did this thing, or you know this person, or you have been to this place, or whatever it might be. Um, I feel very fortunate that I've been able to make those connections. And then I always say this about friendship and relationships. Just like relationships, like friendships have to be fostered and taken care of, and they're just as important. So you have to put in the effort that you want from them. You have to put that same effort into them. So I make sure to reach out to people. Like we go to 2 or 3 conferences a year, but I stay in touch, 12 months out of the year. I try to make sure that if it's on social media or texting or in a group chat or on Slack or whatever it might be, I try to make sure that I stay true to those connections so that it's not just that weird, like when I see you in October thing or when I see you in June or whatever it might be. So I guess forging that connection, I handle it like I handle any relationship or friendship. I want it to feel as important to them as it is to me. And I want to make sure that they know that I respect them and that I'm, happy to know them and shout them out whenever I can and repeat their accolades, whatever it might be, like I said, on social and stuff like that. And I don't know, I feel like it's not that hard if you just kind of just be natural about it, right? Like just be people's friends, like just get to know them and do stuff like that. And I don't feel like it's that difficult. You can totally form some real like badass friendships that way.
And the other thing I'll say here too, and like I love that I know now that we're all like, we're introverts who perform as extroverts for webinars. And
Make it till you make it.
a lot of women in the industry are introverted, right? And so helping them feel good about being seen, or just like dropping into somebody's DMs and saying like, hey, I saw you did this, or you're going to this, like, I'm so proud of you, or I'd really love to grab a cup of coffee with you. Like those sort of things like make my like heart just explode with joy. And I know that that's true for any woman out there who doesn't know whether or not she's being seen. And so I would say, to sum these ladies up, it's like, if there's anyone you want to connect with, reach out, be authentic and then nurture those connections in the same way that you would, any other relationship. And like Kristen said in the chat, there's so many amazing ways for us to stay in touch. Like the thing that's interesting to me is, even though I haven't seen so many of you in person, I feel in some ways like my relationship has gotten stronger with people because we stayed in touch and we were there for each other during COVID, whether that was via Zoom or text or, Twitter DM or what have you. And we're so lucky to live in a world where, my favorite thing about this industry is that I literally travel all over the world and I have friends in every city I go to, whether I'm in New York, like I'm going to be in August, or LA or Vegas, or, I'm going to Portugal. I'm doing it with some women in the accounting industry. When I'm in London, like all those places, I'm up in Canada, I see all of these amazing women who I've met and get to really build these real relationships with. And I know that's true for the two of you as well.
It sounds like, I'm seriously saying it's really simple, right? Like if someone has a webinar coming up, sending them a message to say good luck that morning, or somebody's birthday, posting a picture or sending them a tweet or something that says happy birthday. Add people on Facebook. I know that sounds really like simple, but it's true. Don't hesitate because they're not your super duper friend in real life necessarily, but you've met them. Add them on Facebook, get to know them a little better, know when their birthday is, know stuff about their kids, like stuff like that. I've learned most from social media. We only get to be in person with each other a couple times a year.
Well,
Yeah.
And just to add to that, you don't know where that will go. I mean, because there's one person, so I was in a minute of a group, and nobody else wanted to reach out to tell this person that what they posted they felt was inappropriate. So I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And we just talked about that yesterday. She has become a real life best friend to me. This was, 5 years ago. And yes, she's Shirley Mathers. A lot of you may know that. She's on the West Coast, so we don't see each other often, but she came 2-3 years ago and we vacationed together over Christmas. We took a Christmas cruise together. Like, she has become one of my best friends and we talk daily. And so you just don't know where these relationships are going to go. You could end up, with like, she's my lost sister type thing, right? So you just don't know where it's going to go. And like Kelly said, just reach out and yeah.
Yeah, I love this. So we have a couple more questions I want to get through. And because of the sake of time, I'm going to lead them in a way that's a little rapid fire. And then what I want to ask everyone to do is, we're going to take some questions from the chat. So if you have anything you're dying to ask these women, please start throwing those things in the chat just so we can make sure we honor everybody's time by the hour. But rapid fire, I'd love 3 things from each of you on ways that you stay grounded and take care of yourself, because self-care season has been a must during COVID time. So let's see, Kelly, will you go first? What are 3 ways you stay grounded and take care of yourself?
Well, this past week and change with me actually having COVID, it was a lot of in bed and bad TV and tea, literal tea. But generally speaking, I would say it's probably my morning routine. I make sure to get up and like run my errands, walk my dog, do all of the stuff that I want to clear out of my mind and my brain before I start working in the morning. I do all of that before I sit down at my desk. And I feel like that's a little unconventional. A lot of times people want to get to work as early as possible and sit there for as long as they can. I need to get that stuff done to kind of like clear my brain. I like to cook, so it's a little therapeutic for me, but I try and end my day at a certain time so that I can go downstairs, cook a nice meal. I like to take pictures of them and put them on Instagram. I'm sure Madeline and Tanya have seen. So I do my little like gourmet chef situation. And then bike riding actually helps me clear my cycling, bike riding, however you say it. That's my form of exercise. So getting outside when it's nice out and actually going for like some really long rides, like 20-30 miles, I really enjoy. So that's, I would say, 3 things.
I love that, Kelly. I started bike riding during COVID and I love it too. And also another subgenre of Kelly's Instagram that's my favorite is Yorkie based content, because I too have a Yorkie, and our Yorkies, when I come to New York, they're going to become best friends. I just have a feeling about it because both of our Yorkies wear a lot of sweaters. So if you want Yorkie based content, hit us up in the DMs. We'll give you our Instagram handles. Okay, Tanya, what about for you?
So I love swimming. We've got a pool, so I spend as much time as I can in the pool, and I try to work my schedules around in the summer so that I can just, take a few hours off in the middle of the day, go out, relax in the sun and whatnot, whether it's by myself or somebody else. I love to read. I do not read business books. I have a ton of business books that are on my to read list, but I just love to read so much that it's the historical romance novels. That's not for the historical, it's not for the romance. It's for the historical part. I love old England, old Europe. So anything around that, whether it's again true based or not, I love stuff like that. And that really, I find that gets me out of my headspace. And it's my family and friends. Sometimes I just need you just need that time to just spend and connect. And whether it be, Sherry and my daughter used to laugh whenever Sherry and I used to do this, because we'd sit there and chat, and then we'd have like a glass of wine. So Elizabeth used to call in and said, she talked about like my boot camp hours. She's like, no, you're at booze camp. You guys are at booze camp. So whether again, it just sit and just relax and get out. And sometimes it's just relieve the stress, and sometimes it's just whatever. It just gets me out of my headspace. Just again, friends and family, just getting that social aspect.
Okay. I'm like, these are like some best life goals moments. So I think that's the other thing about COVID is it like pushed us to like be like, what is the life I want? And so much of us were working virtually before that. But again, it's so easy to get caught up in your work day. And so I love that you guys have things that keep you grounded outside of that. Okay, next rapid fire is, what are 3 ways, or maybe just one way? I mean, I'm curious what calls to each of you that women can be supporting other women in the industry. There's a million ways, but what is the ways that you think are most pressing? Tanya, will you take this first?
Sure. Oh gosh, again, yeah, there's so many different ways. I think, just be there for each other. If you see somebody who, again, if you're out and about, you see a post, reach out. That outreach is really huge. There's many places you can do it. Again, in person, on Facebook. We talked about when we were talking about this beforehand. Twyla has the Women in Accounting group where you can go in and you can either be a mentor or a mentee to and from another woman. So, but just reach out, put yourself out there, especially if you have received support from people and you want to give back. Just find somebody. It's, just, and again, just reach out. And, if you're in the other aspects, again, just reach out. If you put something out there on, on Facebook, or walk up to somebody, again, there's, lots of us. So somebody might not always have the time to do that because we can't mentor or, mentee everybody all the time. But, they might still know somebody else, or maybe there's another group or something that you can just get people connecting in, or just something. There's ideas out there somewhere. So
I love that. Kelly, what about for you?
I think that, it sounds silly or straightforward, attending stuff like this. So like coming to our webinars, if you go to a conference and they ask you to fill out the survey and stuff afterwards, being encouraging, like we get to see those notes when we speak. So being encouraging, or even just stating that you're happy that, there were more women featured this year, or more women on stage, or more women that you can identify with. Just, it has that little voice, but it's a way to let organizers know that women, belong on these things. So I think that just supporting the people that are speaking and giving them, and obviously warranted, but like giving them good reviews when warranted. I think that's a really great way to support women.
I love that. Okay, y'all, we have some questions coming in the chat, but we have one more question I want to ask. Well, let's go to the questions from the audience, actually. Emily, just, I think they're so important. Kelsey is asking us, how would you advise managers within CPA firms and CAS teams to eliminate bias in the workplace? This is such a great question, particularly for those of us who are leading teams. And, even if we work in an environment, I have an all-female team and this stuff still shows up. So, Kelly, do you want to take this one first?
I'm actually going to default to Tanya on this one because I don't have a big team under me. And also because I feel like she had a more corporate background than I did. So I'm going to go to Tanya on this one.
All right. Okay. And that's a really tough question. The really what I can think of is, first off, you've got to put it out there. So as the managers that you've got, put it out there and just have, and I have a type of open discussion about it in a safe place. It has to be a safe place, or maybe even pull, women in and just say, how are you feeling? And maybe it's an HR person that's come in there, or, versus the manager, somebody they're going to feel comfortable talking with, and just do some real, like a mastermind group in troubleshooting as to what are things that might make them feel more comfortable. What are some scenarios that might have made them feel uncomfortable or made them feel less worthy? And then the most important thing is then acting on that, taking all of that advice and acting on it and doing something to make it an equal, safe place. And, it does all fall to the management, because it's if the management is not doing that, people are going to follow what the management's doing. So if the management is saying, what, we're all equal, and maybe that means that, somebody has to go for a sensitivity training, or, a quality training or something like that. If they're not respecting, or respectful training, whatever you're going to call it. But, maybe there's something like that. But again, stepping up, having that discussion in a safe place, and then following through with whatever those results were, to try to make that change.
I think also, sorry. Assigning, if you're in the managerial position, assigning the same work that you would across the board. making sure not to, not to give one particular assignment to a woman versus a man because let's say they have better admin skills or they're more nurturing or whatever it might be. Or certain types of clients, like difficult clients, tend to be assigned to women because we're better at, let's say, talking them down or whatever the situation might be. I think that also adds to that bias.
Absolutely. That and again, the pay scale, but again, I think what you said and take what I've said and pull it together, it all falls on the management. People are going to look to the management and see what the management are doing. So yes, you need to be very careful about what you're doing to make sure that you are showing equality.
Yeah, absolutely.
That the only thing I want to dovetail there is also if you don't have the knowledge or the resources inside the team you have, go outside of it. So I've been through a lot of leadership development work with my team. We have 12 on staff now, and we're currently growing to a team of about 20 by year end. And there's skills training that we need both in communication and management and just leadership in general, because a lot of the leaders on my team are emerging leaders. It's their first time in a management or a leadership position. And so there's so many great resources like we've Skillshare and LinkedIn Learning have been great for us. They're low cost and give us on-demand resources that we can give our team and have them do homework basically to help up level that skills. It's very cost effective. And then we also work with outside coaches. So our executive team all has their own independent executive coaches. Our management team, they work with me as I coach them to level up in the leadership roles. And when we hit an issue, especially in spaces like DEI, or even for me, we're doing some outside communications training. I'm reaching into my network and pulling people who are better facilitators or better teachers in those areas, so that I don't know all of this stuff, and so it's important to lean on other people. And if you're looking for somebody like that in your firm, again, please reach out. I know a lot of really amazing trainers in this space who are connected to the industry, so I'd be happy to share those resources. Okay, we're at the top of the hour. I haven't seen another question come through. I have seen a lot of amazing comments of people just saying that they loved this session and that they want the recording. So please know that Molly's going to be, or excuse me, not Molly. I'm thinking of Molly and Emily because they used to be such an amazing team. Emily is going to be sharing the recording with all of you after this session, to make sure that if you want to watch a playback, you can. I'd also say spread the word. There was amazing attendees today, but if there's another woman who needs to see this recording, I think this conversation could be beneficial to so many. So please help us spread the word. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you to you guys. Thank you to Bookkeep for organizing this. Emily, I know you put a lot of work into this. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, so much for your participation.
Yes, and thank you. And I'm honored to be here. And again, Madeline, you absolutely amazing job as a moderator. And again, thank you to Bookkeep. And thanks, Emily, for the idea, I guess. And thanks, Dan, and everybody at Bookkeep there, because it's important.
Seriously.
Thank you.
Thank
you all so much. We'll get this recording sent out probably tomorrow in a follow-up. All right. Thank you all. Have a great day.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.